Hey guys, welcome back to another episode on the What I Love About Sex podcast. Today's episode is something I've never shared with you before, and it is me sitting down with an erotica author. Erotica is written porn, and Avalon Lust is my guest. She is an erotica author who started within the year, and she's already wrote a bunch of books, and she's great. I mean, we had such a good conversation. It was so much fun. I'm a little upset that the audio quality isn't great because my mic was not plugged in to the proper hole. But I believe regardless, you will enjoy this interview because it's just full of passion and humor, and it's very interesting. We talk about how erotica can help you as a man, maybe even with your visualization skills, I would say, and especially how it helps women to actually feel something when they haven't felt something in a while. And sometimes it does take something else like erotica to bring back that horny feeling to help her feel alive again in that way. You know, I think there's something so powerful about women being able to find their own thing to get back in their body before they reconnect with their male partner. It has nothing to say about you guys, but it has to do a lot more with her being able to feel liberated and find other methods of feeling aroused and feeling really good in her body. So anyway, without further ado, let me introduce Avalon Lust. Avalon Lust is the provocative name behind the scorching hot erotica that ignites passion and desire. With a focus on short, tantalizing reads, Lust stories are crafted to arouse and captivate, perfect for those seeking to spice up their intimate moments. But beware, these tales come with a trigger warning. Ensure readers are prepared for the steamy journey ahead. So whether you're indulging alone or with a partner, dive into Lust's world and let your imagination run wild. Avalon Lust, welcome to the show.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you.
I am excited to talk to you today because I have never talked to an erotica author before. So this is exciting.
Ooh, that is exciting. Yeah, and I haven't been on a podcast before, so first for both of us.
That's right. Tell us a little bit about, like, first of all, what is erotica for the listener who has no idea what erotica is?
Well, in my definition, it's written down porn. So it's basically sex scenes on top of each other. There's not much plot. There's mainly two people meeting and having intercourse, and it's fantasy. So you can imagine those people as you want them. And of course, there is all sorts. You can get into threesomes, this, that, the other, just like regular porn.
Yeah, like who would you say it's for most? Like who's the ideal erotica?
So my target audience are women, but that doesn't mean that guys cannot read erotica, obviously. It's just proven that women like to imagine a little more. They don't just need to see the visual like in a porn where things just happen. They rather imagine the guy that they just met in the supermarket and they put him in their book and they're like, oh my God, yes. And now he's here. Now it's happening. So it's all in the head. But there's a ton of guys that also like that imagination. Mm-hmm. So as I say, target audience are women, but it goes for everyone.
Yeah. How can guys, because I agree with you. I think that I read my first erotica book not too long ago, and I didn't even finish it because it was a bit too intense for me. There wasn't a lot of romantic connection in the book. It was very more forceful and like intense, which I realized was not my style for erotica. But I was still like reading it and I'm explaining it to my boyfriend and he was like, okay, get to the point. When are they going to get to the point? And I was like, it was so funny because it was just like, no, that's the exciting part. It's like, you don't know what's going to happen. And it just like lasts a really long time. So it seems like women really do more so enjoy that anticipation versus guys are just like, okay, let's get to it. Do you find that too?
Yes, I believe that. Yes.
But how can guys, like you said, it's for everyone, right? So like what would you say the benefits are for a guy to read erotica?
Well, first of all, you learn a little more about women, like you read their fantasies. Well, porn, I think, is a lot made for guys' fantasies. So it's a lot about blowjobs, threesomes with two girls, like guy fantasies. While my books come into girl fantasies. So there might be two guys. It might be the guy from the supermarket, like I said, or maybe a police officer, somebody in uniform. So just the fantasies we have as women go into the book. So I think it's very, very interesting for a guy to read what the girlfriend, wife, partner may fantasize and learn a little more about it. And maybe even read an erotica together and then have it as a conversation starter. So the girlfriend, wife can say like, oh my God, I really like that. I really enjoyed this. And then you can start there and be like, okay, why does she like that? Okay, maybe we have to try this.
Yeah, that's great as a conversation starter because I feel like, I mean, most guys who come to me anyway are like, it feels so random to just talk about our fantasies,
Right,
like how
right.
can we just randomly start talking about that?
Where do you start? Exactly. So I think with the erotica, if the woman reads it and she's just all in and loves it, then you can ask her, hey, what is it about? And then she'll be like, oh, it's this pilot and he's showing off in his uniform and he's taking the uniform off and oh my God. And then you're like, okay, it's uniform. Well, let's try that.
Uniform is a big one, right? I see that all the
Definitely.
time.
Definitely. Yes.
That's funny because I never personally had a big thing for uniforms, but it seems like a very big fantasy for women as a men.
I have to admit, my husband actually is a pilot. So I,
That's great.
I'm guilty for the uniform thing.
Are these your personal stories you're writing about?
uh, Mostly yes,
Oh my
but
God. Wow.
I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, there's also it's fantasy. There's of course
Yeah.
inspiration, but then a little more. But yeah, it's all based on something.
Oh, that's so cool. Because right when I said that, I was like, wait, but really? Maybe it is. You're like, oh yeah. It totally is.
Well, not all of it. I'll put one on top most of the time. I'm like, okay, it would be nice if we go there, but that's in my head.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably exaggerate it more in the writing, right?
Definitely, yeah, of course, of course.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. It's like whenever you give an example of something, it's usually something from your own life that you can relate
Yeah, of course. I mean, the inspiration needs to come from somewhere. I'm not just
to.
walking around and like, oh yeah, no.
Yeah. You don't just have a really dirty mind that just is.
No, no, no. I'm just a regular person.
How does that I bet a lot of people think that erotica authors and I get this too as a sexologist, like you must just be a very horny sexual person who's just always like, who loves sex and is always in the mood and you're always horny.
Yeah.
Like what would you say to someone who has that assumption about you as an erotica author?
I would almost say it's the opposite. That's actually why I started writing erotica because I started reading it for my own benefit because things did not work out 100% how I was thinking they would in the bedroom. So I started reading it and I was like, oh, this is interesting. That works. That gets me excited. Okay. And I've been writing romance for a while under a different pen name. And then I was like, well, I'm a little impatient for writing such a long romance, 300 pages, takes me half a year before it's ready, going through the editor, this, that, the other, and then publishing. And I really enjoy publishing and seeing how the book does and all of that. So I was like, let's try the erotica. If I like reading it, I can write it. And that's how I got into it. And that's where I'm saying, yeah, I think it was the opposite. So I was not that sexual at the time I started, but I would say it changed. Now when I'm writing it, I'm like, oh my God, just imagining and I'm just dreaming about it. And then, yeah, maybe even trying things out at the end of the day. Be like, okay, I was thinking about this. Let's see how that goes.
Interesting. So do you think it's helping your like your own sex life and your romantic life?
100%, yes. Yes.
Mm.
Because I'm also still reading other authors, of course, for inspiration to see what's out there, what people like to read. So I'm reading and writing at the same time, and it definitely helps. Yes, ask the husband.
Does it get distracting though? Like when you're turned on while you're trying to write, like does that ever become like a problem where you have to step away and like reboot and
Yeah,
recalibrate?
definitely. I mean, like with writing, with everything, I write a book. They are about 30 pages, so like 10,000 words roughly. So they're fairly short. Takes me maybe a week more or less to write it. And then I usually put it to the side for a month because I just can't see it anymore. I'm not getting turned on anymore because I'm just so annoyed by all the sentences and the repetitions and the editing. And I'm like, no, this is supposed to be sexy, and I just see all those things. So I just have to put it to the side and then touch it a month later again. And then I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. And yeah, of course, I'm getting distracted in between a million times that I just have to lean back, close my eyes, imagine again. A lot of times with when it goes into the Kama Sutra, like I'm thinking, okay, how does that work? If he holds her here and then he grabs her there, no, wait, that doesn't work.
That would make sense as you're picturing it.
Right. So
Cool.
yeah, I do get distracted, definitely.
That's funny. I get distracted sometimes in my work too. If I'm like doing too much research on certain things, I'm like, okay, gotta step away and then
Yeah,
come back.
maybe also just overwhelmed at some point where you just like, ah, too much, break time.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And that's really with anything, right? It
I
really is
guess.
just another job. It
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
just
it,
happens to
it
make more
is.
money sometimes. But what inspired you to do like I know was there any like it kind of seemed like you were just wanting to write romance, like that was the real plan.
Yeah,
And then you were
yeah,
like, okay, this takes like a lot longer and I'm enjoying
yeah.
reading erotica. Now I should just write erotica.
Yeah, I think mainly the impatience of just, it's just such a process to write a whole book. It just takes so long that with the erotica, it's so much faster. It's just that fast pace that I can like publish an erotica in about every 6 weeks. I can publish a new book and it just keeps going. And I'm just that keeps me going. If I work half a year on the same project, I just get so tired of it and I just lose the energy and the excitement. But if I can write something new and bring something new out like all the time, and I can see people like it and I get the feedback that just, yeah, I think it's just that I was too impatient for the long books. So I
You
went
found what
into
works
short
for you.
stories.
Yeah. Is there
Yeah.
any part of you that still wants to write a romance novel or like something
I I still do as well, but just like I said, I kind of lost it in between. So I've been working on this one book for half a year now. It's done, it's finished. I just have to rewrite the first chapter, and I just don't get my head. I just don't get to it. It's not working. So hopefully at some point this year I'll finish that one. But right now I'm just all into the erotica. It's just so much fun.
Oh, cool. That's cool. It's like you're, for those of you who can't see her on video, she's just like beaming, talking about erotica. I love it. Very passionate.
No,
Um,
flashing red.
so I know most of the audience is female. Do you ever write like keeping in mind the male reader, like if he was to read it, or is it really just like you keep one person in mind when you're writing?
No, actually I do. Yes, I not all of the books, but some of the books are actually written in dual point of view. So they are written from the male perspective and from the female perspective. So chapter 1 starts with the female thinking, oh my God, he's so hot, la la la. And then chapter 2, the guy is thinking and he's whatever, making up his mind. And so yeah, I definitely I see both sides.
Cool. Which one of your books are like that? Just for the guys listening, if they want to check out those the dual type of writing, what books?
Um, Actually, I think all of them that are published right now. So, Elevated Ecstasy is, and Forbidden Lessons is, that's the Forbidden Lessons is about a professor and a student. And then Elevated Ecstasy, as it says, it's all happening in an airplane. So it's a stranger and the seat neighbor. So we don't have the pilot there, but we got the airplane.
I was gonna say, is the pilot the main character?
Not yet. That's coming. Thanks.
Does your husband know he's the inspiration for the pilot one?
He does, yes. But I don't tell him too much.
What are his
He does.
thoughts on?
Huh?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he does read them though. So once the book is finished, he does get to read them.
Oh, I love just once it's finished, he doesn't get to read it.
Yeah.
What does he think about your work?
Well, first he was like, okay, well, whatever, you do you, Nava. I don't really care. And then now that I start like having a presence online and I get reviews and I have fans and email lists and this and that, he's like, oh my God, this is happening. Wow, go you.
Oh, so super supportive.
Yeah, definitely supportive. Yes.
That's great.
Whenever I say, oh, I have to sit down and I need to write, he's like, okay, I'll go out in the yard. You do your thing. I'm like, okay, thank you.
Oh, that's great because it's some, some male partners would probably feel intimidated or like,
Yeah,
not
maybe.
feel
Well, I mean, he does benefit from it at the end, so I think it's all good.
That is true. I think like, yeah, I always hear that, at least I hear that from other people in the sex space, because I know for me, before meeting my boyfriend, when I was dating other guys, there was an obvious indicator of them feeling intimidated by my work being very sexual,
Yes. Oh,
and
hell yeah.
I wondered if that was a thing. And I talked to other, sex coaches and they're like, yeah, it's like you have to find a secure person who's very like just easygoing and secure. And yeah, so I found that really interesting.
Yeah, I believe that.
But can you give like a summary of one of your books and kind of just like explain to the guys like what the storyline is and maybe without giving too much away, but just a little teaser?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a hard one with not giving too much away.
That's true.
But I'd say we'll dive into Elevated Ecstasy. It is my favorite. It's in the airplane. So there's the girl Lena and the guy Axel. Actually, Axel is my brother's name, which I don't know how that came together in there. Just a fun fact, has nothing to do with the book. So yeah, but it's not.
Let him find it.
I know I'm not describing not describing him in the book. It's a different person. I'm not that sick. Anyways, so
A little twisted, not that twisted.
just a little bit. So Lena is flying for the first time, and she's young. She's 21, and then Axel, he's in his 30s, businessman, and I believe they're in first class, so she got upgraded somehow or other. But there's not much of a storyline, so there's not too much all around explained why and how and blah. No, it doesn't matter.
Where they're traveling, it doesn't matter.
Done. How they got there, who cares? They're there.
They're gonna fuck. That's all we need to know about.
Basically. That's what it comes down to. So then there's turbulence and Lena gets scared, and so she grabs that stranger next to her. She grabs the hand, she grabs the knee, and somehow ends up on his cock, and all scared because the airplane is shaking. And then at some point she just blurs out, she's like, oh my God, and I'm a virgin. I never had sex before, and now we're going down. And so he basically takes that as his cue. He's like, okay, I can help you out here. So he starts touching her right then and there under the blanket, and then they move on to the laboratory, and yeah. And then businessman as he is, he got all the contacts and private investigators and this and that. So they get on the ground, everybody survived, and he's looking for her. He got really intrigued. He was like, they did not actually fuck in the airplane. They just got really, really close. But he really wants to. He's like, oh my God, I need to see this girl again. So he finds her, tracks her down, and they meet again.
Okay.
So I think that's probably as much as I should say without saying too much. Yeah.
But just the fact that they didn't actually do it in the plane is such like a anticipation builder for women. Like I could see a guy reading it being like, just do it. Like
I know. Well, enough is happening in the plane. It's all good.
Okay, cool. So everyone, you got to read Elevated Ecstasy, and I will attach it in the show notes of the episode.
Awesome.
But what about Elevated Ecstasy is your favorite? Why is it your favorite book?
I think because it's a stranger. So all the other books, they have like, one of them is a police officer, and the other one is a pizza delivery guy, and then there's a plumber, and then, as I said, the pilot is coming. So they all have some kind of profession, and you really, like, in the day-to-day life, you're like, oh well, when does the plumber really look that hot? Yeah. Doesn't maybe happen that often. So this one with the stranger, I guess it's more like, okay, it could be anybody, and there's always some good looking guy in the plane.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And maybe it's also easier for guys to imagine, because now they don't have to be the plumber or the pilot. They're just a stranger. They could just be themselves. So yeah, I think that's well. And back to airplane, right? I love flying. I love traveling, and love the airplane.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of loves in there, and yeah, it makes it easy to put yourself in the characters.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
He's in first class, so got to be able to fly first class. Imagine yourself there.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's like, it's funny how like the high status like adds so much to the sexual appeal in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Do you find that for readers, like when it's like a wealthy character versus just like an average character, is there like a difference in love for the character or like sex appeal for the character, or would you know that?
I'm not sure, but for me personally, I think you got both. I mean, on one side, yeah, of course, there's the millionaire or whatever, and he has all the money, so he can do whatever the hell he wants. He can track you down. He has the power. But then I think it's also super sexy, just the guys that work with their hands, like a plumber or a mechanic. They're just, I mean, they're strong, they're built, they don't need to go to the gym, they're actually working out in their day-to-day life. So I'm very intrigued by both.
So there's no like real difference, it's just kind of personal preference.
I would say so, yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I could see that.
I mean,
what made me think of that is 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
Where he's like a billionaire and he's like 20, and I'm just like, this is so unrealistic.
Yeah.
But it's like, I feel like they just had to make him a billionaire to like try to, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to have all the ability to have his dungeon and have the whole setup. I mean, who has that? Who has that house? Well, So yeah, I guess with my books you get both, like whatever your preference is. I'm trying to cover the whole field. So I do have the billionaire, this Axel, but then I also have the mechanic or the plumber.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. A guy who works with his hands. I could totally see that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Um, was I just gonna ask you? Oh yeah. Do you feel, do you have any BDSM in your writing?
Very little so far, but I do want to get into it a little more. So I started a little bit with the police officer. So he, of course, he comes with his handcuffs, and so it's going in that direction just a little bit. But I do want to get into it a little more for sure and see how far I can go without losing the audience. So I don't want to go too far out. I do want to try to keep it realistic, more or less.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I was gonna, I mean, I think that's the reason why the book I started reading was too intense, because it was just
Yeah,
too much pain and not enough romance. So it kind of
yeah,
lost me.
yeah.
So it kind of does seem like a tricky, either you need to have a certain client, I mean, a certain customer, reader who really is into that, or you got to play it where it's mixed in with the romance, I would assume.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, yeah, I'm trying to find the balance, and I don't. So I'm starting slow and build in some more. I do have a threesome in there. I do have some anal in there, and I also just try to do like one chapter with that. So if somebody is not into it, well, just leave that chapter out, and you can still read the rest of the book and enjoy.
Yeah.
So just slowly incorporating it. But then, of course, there's lots of people that love to read about that, even though they don't want to actually practice it. It's a fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it starts a conversation, like what you said earlier. Like, if they've never done, if a couple's never done anal and she's terrified of it, and then she reads this book that's like filled with, you know, some romance in there, and like it just really gets her curiosity going, it could very likely, start something.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Do you feel like you have to ever do you basically write mostly about the things you are fully aware of and have experienced yourself? Or do you ever have to study, like maybe study some, like for the BDSM example, like study on BDSM to make sure you fully understand it because you don't personally fully know it? So then,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Like,
so far I've only written what I experienced and what I know. And that's what I'm saying. I want to go into the BDSM a little more in the writing, but I have not experienced a lot of it in person. So yeah, I will need to study there for sure.
yeah, study it or just start doing it.
Yeah, we will see. We will see. That's
Gotta be one or the other. I love it. So fun. So you write a book every 6 weeks, you said?
Yeah, trying. I mean, I started about a year ago with the writing, and I wrote a bunch of books in a row. And then, as I said, I always have to put it to the side for at least a month. So I have still about 5 books in my back catalog sitting there on the laptop waiting for me to come back to them. So that gives me the ability to publish every 6 weeks right now. To
Okay.
just so the books are basically already
They're all
done.
ready to go and you're continuously writing.
Yeah, so the fantasy is already out on the paper. I just need to reread it and double check and change some scenes, and yeah.
Cool. Nice. So tell me about I want to know more about your fans. So now you have a fan base.
Yeah.
What are they telling you? What kind of feedback are you getting from your readers?
I mean, the feedback I'm getting is mostly through reviews on Amazon or Goodreads, and it's very diverse as well. I mean, I'm going from 5 down to 3 stars. So there's always people that read it and they're really missing the plot, and they're like, "Oh my God, there's no romance. They're just fucking." I'm like, "Yeah, that's in the trigger warning. I mean, this is what it is. That's what you're reading. If you want a romance, you need to read a romance. I'm sorry." And then Also, yeah, the 5-star reviews, people just they were looking for this. They just absolutely love it. They're like, oh my God, it's just 30 pages. This is great. I can read it like in that half an hour before my husband comes to bed, and I'm horny, I'm ready. So and that's kind of what the intention is. That's what I'm trying to do.
Interesting. Yeah, tell me more about that. The intent, is that always the intention, or do you have different intentions for different books?
Well, no, that's always the intention, actually. I mean, that's how I got into reading it. That's how I started reading romance and writing romance. And I was always like, oh man, when is the sex part coming? When is it finally happening? And then I get all excited, but it takes me like 2 days to read. And then on day 3, well, the husband is flying, and now I'm on the sex scene. I'm like, oh great, now what? So here I am all horny, and I'm like, great, he's gone. So then I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll need to get into erotica. So we actually read right away to the point. So I'm like, okay, I can start reading, and in the same night I get to the point, I get horny, it's all good. He comes to bed, things happen, perfect. Everybody
Perfect
happy.
timing.
And yeah, and then that's my intention now writing it, that I'm like, I'm sure I'm not the only woman out there that is struggling sometimes to get excited or to get the fantasy going. So I was like, okay, let
Oh
me
yeah.
help you out here.
Yeah. No, I think that's something that a lot of women criticize themselves for, is like, oh, I have a low libido, and they just like tell themselves things that aren't necessarily true. They just need more, they just need a trigger. They just need some help.
Yes.
And
Yes.
sometimes you can help yourself by doing stuff like this.
Yeah,
We can't leave it all up to our partner to
no,
completely
no,
throw.
definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, yeah, I mean, we expect things, and we want them to give us this awesome massage and this and that. Yeah, but it still doesn't always work. But if you get your mindset and you have this fantasy in your head, it works. And
Yeah.
I can see it working the other way around too, for guys, or reading it together. I have been reading books together with my husband, and then we're like, oh my God, what are they doing? Let's try this. And yeah, conversation starter, or also just a starter in general.
What do you think is the easiest way to, how do I put this? Because I bet there's going to be some listeners who feel like, oh, my wife would never read that, or my girlfriend would never, like, because she tells me she's never in the mood, and that would feel like I'm
Yeah,
pressuring her. I told her
yeah.
like, what do you think is a good approach? Do you have any ideas for approaching a woman who's maybe has never stepped
Yeah.
towards erotica?
I don't know. I mean, usually a friend helps. If a friend tells you and a friend recommends you, and it's like, oh my God, I was reading this and you should read this. This is so hot. It reminded me of this and that. I mean, that works for me. If a friend recommends me something, I'm like, okay, if she's been reading it, I'll try it. But otherwise, it's hard. I mean, if the woman reads in general, you can always start with smutty romance, like I started. So you read a whole romance book that has a bunch of good sex scenes in it. So it's not just erotica, it's like a smut romance. But then if you don't read 300 pages are just too much, so you won't even touch that. So then erotica is a good thing because they only have like 30, 40 pages, the short stories. So it's not really about the reading. But yeah, I don't know. It's really hard.
I mean, I think that alone, like what you just said, if she's not a reader, like even just saying, hey, it's only 30 pages, why don't you just read it and see what you feel? Or like,
yeah, yeah,
if it's interesting to you.
yeah, or talk to the girlfriend and be like, hey, tell my wife.
Yeah, yeah. True. Yeah, because I mean, that was when that's basically the only time you'll read erotica too, is right before bed, right? It's like,
yeah,
you're not really reading it with your coffee to start the day off.
oh my God, no.
Unless
Well,
you have nothing to do all day but masturbate. Like, I don't see.
Gonna be an interesting day.
Right? But so it's right before bed. And I know when I was reading that one book, like, even though I wasn't even that into it, like it was, like I said, it was too violent for me. It was just too intense, but it still like got me horny because then it got me
Yeah.
thinking, oh, I wish he did this to her instead. Like, I wish this was happening. And then I would make my own fantasies based on what I wanted to see.
Exactly.
And then I remember, like, you know, a couple nights I was reading it, I was just like, I just jumped my boyfriend because I was like, I didn't like that, but let's do this. Like, you know, so even me not being into the book.
Yes.
So
it worked. Yes.
Like, what gave you confidence to know that you were good at writing erotica? Was it like the feedback you were getting, or was it you really enjoying the process and feeling like it was just smooth and easy for you? Like what made you feel like, okay, this is my thing. Like, this is definitely working.
Yeah, a little bit of both, maybe. Yeah. I mean, at the beginning, I didn't tell anybody about it, not the husband, not the friends. I just started doing it. I'm like, okay, let's see how this goes. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm just writing about sex, like nonstop, 30 pages. There's no plot, no nothing. It's just going right through it. It's like, oh my God, what are people gonna think? And then the first two books came out and I got really good reviews and everybody liked it. And I do have an email list and people sent me emails saying, oh my God, thank you. Like, this actually worked. And that gave me the confidence that I'm touching other women that may have problems and getting excited, but they want to, but yes. So then getting that feedback, I'm like, okay, it's working. People are happy with it. This is what the world needs.
Yeah. What were they saying when they said it works? Like, what were they saying? Like, oh, I finally felt horny. Like, what?
Yes. Basically. And then also that the husband is a fan and they're like, oh my God, when is your next book coming out? He's already asking to buy it for me. Or
Right? These people's sex lives are in the hands of your writing.
What a responsibility.
Yeah, big responsibility.
No, yeah, but I mean, yeah, the beginning was all about me, about my own sex life, my own fantasies, and just bringing it down to paper, and that it actually went out there and other people enjoy it makes me just so happy.
Yeah, you're enjoying it. It's fun for you. They're enjoying it. You're creating happier sex lives. What a great thing to
Score.
do. Have there ever been any complaints about your writing or your stories?
I do send it out to an ARC team before I actually publish it. So about a week or two before it goes onto Amazon, I send it to a smaller circle of maybe like 50 people. There are men and women, so mixed audience, and they read the book and give me feedback. And sometimes the only complaints I get is like that they don't like one word in it, for example. Like the whole book, I say cock and dick and this and that, and then suddenly somewhere I have penis in there. And then they're like, oh, that it just doesn't fit. You need to take that out. Like it took me, I was like so into it, and then I'm just reading penis and I'm like, no. So I'm getting that kind of feedback. And then my last book, the Forbidden Lessons, the student and the professor, that book I did, I had a no happy ending. So she left university, she went to a different state, and he stayed where he was. It's not a romance, they had a good time. Time is over, they're going separate ways. And I got a lot of complaints about that. Everybody's like, oh my God, where's the happy ending? And I'm like, okay. So now the next books are always like, okay, they have each other's number and they may or may not contact. Yes. You can make whatever you want to make out of it in your mind. If they contact each other again in your mind, fine.
If he blocks
So
her, fine.
fine. Exactly. Whatever you want to do with it. But yeah, so I will keep the ending open like that, because this closed ending that they separate and they basically never see each other again gave me a bunch of negative feedback. Yes.
That's so funny to me because it's just so like typical of women to want like a
Yeah.
romantic happy
Yes.
ending, and for like guys
Yeah.
probably wouldn't give a shit.
Yes. That's exactly right. All the feedback to the happy ending were women. Yes. All the guys loved the book. It's a great book. It's just like the last page. Okay, they're separating. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. The editors, so you said you have female and male editors that you get feedback from, right?
Yes.
Do you get typical, like, is there like certain feedback you usually get from men versus women? Or is it kind of
Uh,
the same? There's no
well,
difference.
I have to say, men are just so much easier. They just love it. They like it. There's no, I think they just read over the mistakes. They don't even see any of that. They're happy. And then women are into like, oh, this word I don't like, the happy ending I don't like. Okay.
So more critiques than like editing from women, it seems.
Definitely. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, guys probably get too carried away in the.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. I mean, I think women are just so detail oriented. They want it perfect, and they see if there's a comma missing somewhere. Well, I don't think guys, they just read it, like you say, they get carried away. If there's something missing, who cares? Like,
Sex is sex. It's fine.
exactly.
We don't need a comma there.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make a difference.
What has been the most what has been like the most exciting part, or like your favorite or most exciting part of this experience being an erotica author?
Uh, I think, just like I said before, that it is so fast paced that I can just keep going, and I can publish books like once a month almost, and it's just exciting every time the book goes out. It's like, oh my God, what are the first reviews gonna be? It's just exciting every time. Of course, you see the first review and you say, yes, it's 5 stars. Oh my God, and it makes your day. And then the next review is just 3 stars, and you're just like, you just got the wrong book. It's not
You
it's not
understand
a
it.
romance. No happy ending.
Oh, so it's really just the process that you love
Yeah.
most.
Yeah, I would say so, definitely. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's what you want, right? Like you want the process to be your favorite part
Yeah.
because then you
Yeah.
never stop.
Yeah. Hopefully I can keep going.
Yeah. How long have you been doing this?
I started about a year ago, and I published the first book in January
Oh,
this year.
wow.
So,
Okay. So just a year.
yeah.
Wow. And you're really pushing through. You're like, so you have 5 books that are sitting on the side. You still have to do editing for. How many
Yeah.
books? How many books between those 5 and the ones you've written and published already? How many books have you worked on?
I think about 10 total. So there's 5 are published. The first one is like a free one to get people excited, and then there's 4 on Amazon right now. The 5th is coming out in a week, and then 5 more in the pipeline. So roughly about 10.
Cool. Is the one coming out in a week Elevated Ecstasy?
No, the one that is coming out is actually Naughty Delivery, and that's about the pizza delivery guy.
Ooh. Nice. I want to read, if you were to recommend one for me, would you recommend Elevated Ecstasy? Seems
I
like
think
that's
so. Yes. Yes.
okay.
Maybe you might need to leave the last chapter out, because they do get into the threesome at the end. So her girlfriend joins, but so you can.
Wait, why
But
would I leave that out?
well, it just no. If you're into it, you read it. If you're not, you're not. That's just
That sounds like the best chapter.
okay. Okay, you read it.
Cool. I'm gonna read that one.
Okay, yeah. Let me know.
I
Can't
will.
wait.
I will. I'll let you know what I think. But amazing. Okay, so where can the listeners find you and find your books and
They're all on Amazon under Avalon Lust, and then the different names. The only problem is with Amazon, you have to change the search into books or Kindle. If you just go into the regular Amazon search, it won't show because it's erotica and the covers are explicit and the language is explicit. So if you just put it in the search button, you won't find it. You have to change on the left side on Amazon, change it to books or ebooks or Kindle, and then I'll show up. Then I'm the first result.
Is there a link can you give me a special link to put it in so that they can go straight to the actual book?
Yes, 100%.
So I'll do that for everyone.
Send you the link.
Yes. That we have the link that goes directly to the book.
Yes, 100%.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. This is really fun talking to you. And yeah, I recommend that all men and women just try out erotica and especially Avalon Lust books.
Yes, thank you so much, Stephanie. This was so much fun. I was a little nervous, but this was amazing.
Oh, you did great. It was awesome.
Thank you.